Hey everyone, I hope you all are having a great day. Today I'm going to go through a tutorial video that pairs with Unit 1, Lesson 4 on dimensional analysis and any sort of metric conversion surrounding that. So it kind of pairs with the base units section, which I believe is also Lesson 2. So just wanted to include some information on that and how to, since it can be a little bit confusing. So first of all, I have a resource that I'm going to go through with you. You can click this on my landing page, Help with Metric Conversions, and you're going to pull up the same file that I'm going to be going through and writing over today. And so just know if you want to follow along, you can click on the link Help with Metric Conversions. And then I'm just going to work it kind of and take some notes as I go through. So what I'm basically saying here, and it's kind of small, so like I said, if you want, you can open up your own file of it so that you can read it a little bit better, but I'm going to read it to you as well. Basically, the dimensional analysis is talking about how there's a lot of ways to represent a measurement. There's inches and centimeters for length, and if you have two different units, you can't just add those measurements together. I can't add 1 inch plus half a centimeter because the units are different. So you can't just add them together simply. So you have to actually convert to one common unit before you can actually perform math operations on any measurement, on any number. You have to make sure that the units are matching up for length or for time or for mass, any of those things. So a lot of the stuff we do in our heads all the time. So for example, if I asked you, I'm just going to write over here, if you have, let's say that you have 12 quarters, and I said, how many dollars do you have? How many dollars do you have? Okay, you may be able to do that in your head, right? But when we do more complicated problems, it's not easy to do it in our head. So let's actually write down what we're doing. Well, you and I know that there are 4 quarters in a dollar, right? There's 4 quarters for every $1. We know that in our head. And when you have any sort of equality, like this equal sign right here, you can actually represent that equality as a fraction. So we could say that there are 4 quarters per dollar, like this. Or I could say that there is $1 per 4 quarters. I can write in both of these ways because both of these mean the same thing. They mean 1. 4 quarters for every $1. That's the same thing, right? And so I can write them in a ratio in this way. So anytime you have an equality, you can represent it like this or like this. You can have one on top or the other on top. So once we have our relationship here, this is like our relationship, we can actually convert. So you always, when you're doing metric conversions, you write down what you're starting with, including the unit. So we have 12 quarters. 12 is our number and quarters is our unit. And then what you're going to do is you can write it as a fraction, like over 1. It helps you. So whatever you're starting with, write it over 1. And then you're going to multiply. So that's what you do every time. You write down what you start with, you multiply, you do another fraction line, and you put the unit you want to get to on top. So what unit are we trying to get to? Well, we're trying to get to dollars, right? And you're going to put the unit that you want to cancel out on bottom. Well, we don't want quarters anymore. So I want quarters to be on bottom, right? So you put the unit you want to get to on top and the unit you want to cancel out on bottom, and then we can input the relationship. So the question is, should I input this one or this one? Well, if you notice, my dollars are on top, right? And my quarters are on bottom. So I'm going to input it this way. Basically, there's $1 for every 4 quarters, simply because that's the way my units are. I'm just going to input it the correct way. If we put 4 on top, it doesn't make sense that there are $4 for every 1 quarter, right? So I'm going to put the 1 on top and the 4 on bottom. And now this is just a multiplication problem. If you notice, our quarters are going to cancel out because really it's like quarters divided by quarters. And I know that's kind of a weird thing, but it's kind of just like a math problem. And even though quarters is not a number, if you've got 1 on top and it's multiplied and then the other quarter is on bottom, they're going to cancel out. Just like 4 times 3 over 4, the 4 actually would cancel out and that would equal 3. So if a number is on top and then multiplied and then on bottom again, it actually just cancels out. And so because we have quarters on top here and then quarters on bottom there, it's going to cancel out. And we're just going to do 12 times 1 divided by 4. So you can input this in your calculator a lot of ways. You can say 12 times parenthesis 1 over 4, or you can do the top, 12 times 1, and then divided by the bottom. So 12 times 1 is just 12, right? And then 1 times 4 on the bottom is just 4. So really this is just 12 divided by 4, which is $3, right? So I know you're thinking, I already knew that when you asked the question at the beginning, but when we get to harder problems with metric conversions, you don't know them all in your head. So I want you to see how it makes sense with something that's easier to grasp, like quarters and dollars. Then we can do higher up ones that have to do more with chemistry terms that you may be a little bit less familiar with. If you have any questions at all, please join my classroom.